Coming up, I'll tell you what is driving the anti-work movement. Julia Pollack, our ZipRecruiter economist, joins to talk about how businesses can retain talent, and then job openings are doubling available workers. Let's go. Helping you make more income and more impact. Winning at work, so you're winning in life, is my aim for you. This is the Ken Coleman Show. I'm Ken. All right, let's get right to this. Boy, I'm diving into this more and more because I think we're going to see it grow. This anti-work movement, hashtag anti-work, not a new sentiment at all. In fact, I would say that this, not only is it not new, it's been around for as long as you could possibly imagine. And its roots are in socialism. But instead of doing a diatribe or a civics lesson on socialism, I'm actually going to go much deeper to how it ends up applying itself to work conditions and young people. Like, how is it that this movement is almost always revived? If it never's gone anywhere, it just kind of gets some new fuel and it cycles through. It's always young people. I'll show you that. And then how is it that socialistic leanings, or just the actual broad application of socialism, works its way into the emotions around work? Because I don't think it is the socialistic aim of these folks inherently, but I think that socialism is attractive to people who are dealing with this anti-work frustration. So there's your headline. Did I get you all sucked in? And now let's break it down. So this is a growing sentiment now on social media. The anti-work hashtag anti-work has now had over 100 million views on TikTok. And it's also got a very popular Reddit thread that has been compared to the Occupy Wall Street movement. If you remember that, a few years ago, a bunch of young people decided to just camp out on the street in New York to protest great wealth. Yeah. How'd that work out? In fact, you forgot about it until I mentioned it. This movement has many different lanes, if you will. Some call for better working conditions, some stronger unions. And then there's the radical ideas of abolishing work altogether, and that's your universal income. Hey, I'm a human. I have rights. One of my rights is to a livelihood, but who says I should have to work for my livelihood? You, great government, supply me with my universal income. And this is a populist message for many, and then it gets perverted and it gets abused by dictators. Go do your own homework on this. If you're a young person watching me, instead of just immediately getting mad at me because you think I said something just there that I didn't, I want you to go do research on people that have grown up and lived in Cuba. See, what happens is bad men, it's mostly men, presumably a woman could be a dictator as well, but usually it's bad men. And they abuse and manipulate the underpinnings of this anti-work movement. And they go, well, I'll tell you what, we'll take care of you. And it sounds really great until you realize you don't get a raise with government income. Has anybody ever thought about that? All you folks that want the universal income, you realize you don't get a raise. You don't get promoted. It's socialism, which leads to communism. Somebody has to say it. I'll say it. I don't care if you get mad. So we saw the anti-work movement in recent history in the 70s with the hippies, right? Peace and love, man. We just want to love each other. Listen to good music, little CCR and some marijuana, baby, right? Let's go party in a field. It's not a new idea, but it's younger people who are disenfranchised. So I really want to get to the root cause of this anti-work movement and the root cause of all of this nonsense. And it comes down to people are disenfranchised, they're disgruntled. You choose the word. So you got to dive into why. All right, a little bit more data. Recent reports show that 56% of Gen Z and 55% of millennials would leave their jobs if it got in the way of their personal lives Or they wouldn't accept a job offer in the first place if they had issues with the company's social, environmental, or political stances. Now, I got to stop right there. If that describes you, can I just for a moment ask you a question to consider? And then I'll move on. My question is, how do you view work? This is the question I want you to wrestle with. If you are in this group of people, these are startling numbers. 56% of Gen Z, 55% of millennials. By the way, two largest demographics in the workforce. I'm sorry, that's not true of Gen Z. Millennials are the largest demographic in the workforce right now. So one half, all right? So how do you view work? If you would leave your job, if in some way your personal life was going haywire and you would quit because of that, or you wouldn't take a great opportunity to work for a good company, otherwise good company, whose CEO may not vote the way you vote. How do you see work? How can you make a decision like this if you don't see work as something that is vital for your survival and vital for you to thrive? If you see work as this just optional thing that can be interchanged and all it is a paycheck only, then you make these kind of decisions and you think this way and thus you show up in the study this way. Let's keep going. Meg is a 21-year-old student and bartender. And she's been a minimum wage service job since she began working. This is what she said. I said, disillusioned, listen to this. I thought there'd be a sense of community around my work, but everywhere you go, everyone seems to be miserable. We're living in these awful conditions just to have to work like cattle. We need to change, but we can't do that until the workplace has changed. So now this is now, again, I'm not going to try to break down her statement as to why she feels this way, but the fact of the matter is this is a person who does not believe, because she hasn't seen it, enough to have a different point of view. So her only point of view is that she's like cattle and she's forced to live in crappy environments because she can't get a better job. Ultimately, anti-work comes from disappointment with where they are currently and a disbelief that it can be better. So I wrote down 3 things that really are at the root of the anti-work movement. Number 1, they have grown up in an environment where all they've ever heard about work is that it sucks. They've seen their parents be disappointed and disillusioned, their grandparents, whatever. Number 2, their expectations are unrealistic. I will say this is the big problem with all young people of every generation, including mine. But right now we have outsized expectations, and these kids think they're going to come out of college and make 6 figures, or they think that they're just entitled to getting promoted every 6 months, and that they should live in a really great house and drive a really great car and have all the things that are the benefit of hard work. But they want it now. The third thing is they are victims of poor leadership. Poor leadership. So unions and striking young people isn't the answer. You know why? Those only address your pay and your schedule, not feeling purpose, being recognized, and having a relationship with your leader.
Do you know what you were born to do? In order to get hired at a job you love, you need to get clear on your talent, passion, and mission. That's why our team created the Career Clarity Guide. In just a few minutes, this free tool will walk you through a process to discover what you do best, that's your talent, the work you love to do, that's your passion, and the results that matter to you, your mission. Then you'll feel more confident throughout the job search process. To get started, go to kencoleman.com/clarity.
Have you ever had a moment when you discover something new and it changes your entire outlook? Maybe it was when you picked up a new hobby or moved to a new city. What if it could happen with your work? I think there's an awesome job or 2 or 3 or 4 out there made for you. And that's why my friends at ZipRecruiter are so amazing. They can help you find it. They're your personal recruiter. sending you jobs that match your skills and experience. The awesome job could be right around the corner. Check them out today. It's free to you. The service is free. ZipRecruiter.com/Ken, ZipRecruiter.com/Ken. All right, what do we got here? Okay, great. So speaking of ZipRecruiter, my friend Julia Pollack, who is the chief economist there, hopped on the video call with her recently to talk about our current work environment and how leaders and companies are reacting to the fact that there's this huge gap. They're desperate for people, many companies still, but they can't get them. They can't attract them, or they're losing people to other companies, and how it shifted the view. Here is my conversation on that with Julia Pollack. I got to get you to comment on this. I know you're more on the economy side, but part of what I'm doing now as an extension of what I set out to do is to kind of ring a clarion call to leaders to say, you can't just throw money and benefits and flexible work at people anymore. Yeah. We saw a McKinsey study come out just 2 weeks ago. I was on Fox Business talking about this with Maria Bartiromo, and the McKinsey report came out and just said point blank that the thing that workers are looking for most now is they're looking for an opportunity to be developed. So yes, a paycheck is tied to that, but it is a derivative of you are developing me and training me, so you value me enough to do those things, and thus I've got an opportunity to grow with you. And as I grow professionally, obviously I'm going to grow financially. The raises, then the opportunities come with that. And to the point that I said on the show, and I just want you to comment on that from your angle, because I said to Maria, I said, look, I think that the new challenge for leadership is that employees and prospective employees that you're trying to attract and then retain, they want you to show them a path to a better life. They're no longer looking for a better job.
I think you are on the money here. And, we're seeing the rise of trends like quiet quitting. I don't know if you've seen all the TikTok videos.
It drives me crazy. I talk about it every day now.
Right. Encouraging people to emotionally disengage from their job. And I think the reason you're seeing that is because the relationship between effort and reward got broken by this pandemic.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, people got laid off, whether or not they were hard chargers, whether or not they were the best employees, because companies felt like a nuclear bomb had gone off in their businesses and they had no choice. But it was very discouraging to people who worked really hard. Now, on the other side of the problem, we have a situation where low performers, where underachievers, where the slackers, the people who are malingering and not showing up to work, are not getting fired, despite poor performance, because companies can't afford to fire them because they can't afford to replace them. And so the hard charges in the office are saying, wait a second, I'm picking up all the slack for that guy. That guy stands around, doesn't show up, talks all day without doing work. He gets the same paycheck as me. This is totally unfair. So I think leaders have a big, big challenge to address that, to sort of assert the standards, the principles, the values on which they were sort of founded and which were sort of the core of their operations before, and to kind of, reestablish a world where effort gets rewarded, where there's a clear link, where the incentives are good and wholesome and right.
Yeah, so true. I don't think the Great Resignation is going to slow until there's a great engagement. Gallup has been doing, I think, incredible work for years, year in, year out. They do a work report, and as far back as I can remember, the number has been about 68% holding steady of American workers who are disengaged on the job. And Gallup is very quick to point out when you read the data in the report, doesn't mean they hate their job. We're not talking about an emotion as high as hate. It just means they're not engaged. And so now all of a sudden we got a new term for this called quiet quitting, and it's nothing new. It's people who aren't engaged and don't want to engage for a variety of reasons. And this is the great leadership challenge before us. The deck has shifted mightily for leaders, and they better wake up. I shared a story today about Bezos and this internal report that's gone public. And they say openly that the strategy, because they overhired, the strategy is to let normal attrition just burn through these people like they're logs on a fire. And it's mind-numbing to me. And they don't get it. And I got to tell you, Julia, Amazon is not too mighty to fall. And if they don't start valuing people and taking care of people, it is going to be extraordinary to see what happens to some of these companies who don't figure out that the new way to work is to love people.
Well, there's an interesting study that came out, or a report from Amazon where they say that in some areas they worry that they have already exhausted the supply of people willing to do warehouse work. Many employers are feeling that way. They feel like they have exhausted the supply of qualified candidates in their neighborhoods, and they don't really know what to do about it.
I always enjoy talking to Julia Pollack, who is the chief economist at ZipRecruiter. I want to highlight something that she said in that conversation that I think is an absolute bomb. I mean, it dropped a bomb. It's not even a mic drop. It's too much depth. She said the relationship between effort, that's the employee effort, and reward was broken by the pandemic. Everybody realized it doesn't matter how good of an employee I am. It doesn't matter how long I have served this company. I could lose my job at a moment's notice. That, of all the fear, I mean, let's all take ourselves back for just a moment. The fear of, am I going to get really, really sick? Is my family going to get really, really sick? Are we going to die? Is this going to wipe out the world, right? The gamut. And then, wait a second. Am I going to lose my job? I lost my job. Am I going to be able to get it back? I got furloughed. Am I going to get it back? Is this going to happen to me again? What's the next thing? Listen, let's just be honest. These thoughts ran through everybody's mind. You may not have dwelt on the thought very long, but the fact of the matter is those thoughts ran through my minds. And I think she's exactly right, that what this created was a uneasiness that you can just kind of pour on top of whatever was going on in your perception of your current work or work in general. You take whatever you were thinking in the perspective that you had, and then you take the experience of the pandemic and however it affected you negatively or not, it changed a lot. Fascinating stuff. All right, let's move forward here. Job openings in July. Now, again, we're going to stay on top of this. We're looking forward. Alex, I can't even believe I'm saying this. I haven't looked forward to a jobs report like I look forward to August job report in a long time, because I do think we're going to see some effects of the monetary policy from the Fed. I do. I think we're seeing signs. I'd be shocked, and I don't mind being wrong, but I'm expecting the August job report to show that companies did dial back on hiring. And I'm also expecting to see that the quits dropped, right? Now, we've been on this pattern for 12 straight months of 4+ million people quitting. I'll see if I'm wrong. That's what I'm expecting. But until we get that report, here's where we were in July. And it's important to point out that right now, in July, at the end of July, available positions totaled 11.24 million. That was 200,000 higher than what was available in June. And the expectation is that it would have been 10.7 million. It was 11.24 million. So over 500,000 jobs more than they thought. And so what that tells us is that available workers, openings actually outnumbered available workers just shy of a 2-to-1 margin. Hiring did decline during July. The amount of hires did decline in July, but we're talking about 6.38 million jobs were hired, but that's a decline. And then quits dropped down to 4.18 million. So it's still over 4 million in July. So here's what I'm telling you. There's still a lot of opportunity out there for those of you who want to level up. Don't panic. It's going to be okay.
Did you know that recruiters take an average of 6 seconds to scan a resume? And that's if they ever see it in the first place. In fact, 75% of resumes are rejected before reaching a hiring manager. Listen, folks, if you want to get hired, you've got to make your resume worth noticing. That's why we created How to Write the Perfect Resume. This free guide will walk you through the 5 steps to stand out in the hiring process. to get you your dream job. If you want to get started, go to kencoleman.com/resume.
Of the people, by the people, for the people. I am a man of the people. I'm for you. What specifically am I for? You to make your unique contribution to this world, increase your income, increase your impact. That's what I'm for. I want you to max out on your potential. That's it, Alex. That's it. Let me change the tagline of the show. Win at work, whatever. You know what? I want you to max out your potential. That's it. I want to do a quick shout out, as I do from time to time, to our live YouTube watchers, because we're on all kinds of formats. Talk radio, Sirius XM, podcast, YouTube. But our live watchers who watch at 12 Central Time, some of them get in the chat room that's next to the video window, and I call them the YouTube crazies. Very loyal folks. They stalk me, they congratulate me, they compliment me, they question me, they keep me honest. But Philip led off today with a quote at the top of the chat room, and I just want to say this is very interesting. Philip Lavasser, he said, Ken, I just wanted to thank you for all that you do. I called it your show years ago, and I'm a regular listener. I still am working at the union shop I was when I called you, but now I'm pursuing apprenticeship as an electrician. So Philip, first of all, thank you for the kind words. But the reason I called you out is not to read an affirmation of myself. It is, in fact, sir, to get you to call the show. So Amanda, if Philip calls in, let's work him in today. And Philip, if you want to call in, here's why I want you to call in. I'd like to get a couple of minutes of your opinion on what it's like to be a union member. Good, bad, and ugly. And if you're uncomfortable doing this, don't call. I understand. I don't want to get you in hot water. I actually just want to know what it's like to be a union member. This is an increasing conversation, and you're in a trade, and why you want to move from the union into apprenticeship. So if you're willing to talk about that, Philip, today or another day, let's make that happen. All right, here we go. Boy, 2 stories to get to. And file this under horrible bossery. Loser leaders. Okay? This is a story here of an IKEA manager. Sharif, I'm not going to say his last name because I don't want to offend. I don't even know how to say it. I could guess, but I don't want to. So Sharif, 35-year-old from Queens, but he works in Qatar at a IKEA where he's a manager. His brother, who was just his best friend, died at the age of 40 recently, just a few months ago. Sudden, out of nowhere, heart attack. He took a 5-day trip back to the United States where he works, from Qatar, or Qatar, I don't know how you say it. So he takes a 5-day trip back to the U.S. to attend his brother's funeral. He found out that the company's bereavement leave policy didn't apply to siblings. Direct quote, he says, they didn't give me bereavement leave, so I had to take paid vacation days to attend the funeral. Not cool. I agree with that. Let me stop. I was going to save this for later. I can't. This is an example, as I continue the story, of policy over people. When you, as a company, choose to follow your policy over dealing with people in a real-time situation, you are losing. You are losing their heart. You are losing their loyalty. After a month, so he comes back, and about a month after he returns to work from his 5 days off, his manager called him into the office. And he said, look, I've given you about a month now, and it's time to get back to normal. You need to get over it and move on. I've seen you moping around the office, and it's time to snap back into shape. He ended the conversation with, I don't want to have this discussion with you again. So basically threatened me. Now, Sharif agrees. He said, I have definitely, I've admitted and I know that my performance had not been at 100% following my brother's death. But I was frustrated to hear that my job was threatened with an ultimatum. So he then goes on to Reddit, and again, okay, Sharif, it shouldn't have been handled that way. Let me address that first. Now, this is what I mean by policy over people. So you got a leader who knows that Sharif's brother died, didn't give him the days off, made him file vacation. That's a big miss. If somebody's working for you and a close family member passes away or there's some really traumatic thing, come on. Within reason. I mean, 5 days is all he took to travel halfway around the world. Have a heart. Treat people the way you want to be treated. That's the first problem. Horrible bossery. Horrible bossery number 2 is when he calls him in, and he should have said, "Hey, man, I know it's been a month, and I can tell that you're not 100%. Do you agree with that?" Sharif probably would have said, "Yeah. Hey, I mean, obviously you're sad. Heart's broken. I want you to win here, and we want to get you back to full speed. How can I help you? What's causing you to be less than 100%? Where is it affecting you?" Like, have a real conversation to where Sharif feels noticed, to where Sharif feels valued, and then work with him to go through it. Hey, all right, I want to get you back up to full speed, and I know that's going to happen when your heart's better. So let's see if we can do this, this, and this. Like, actually be a part of the solution, leader. So then this is where Sharif goes wrong. He goes on to Reddit and says the whole story, right? Well, the Reddit post was flagged by a different branch of IKEA. And then Sharif got a call from the HR director who promised to speak to the manager and follow up. Instead, Sharif was notified that he was randomly selected to have his job performance assessed, and he was given a subpar performance, and it all led to him leaving. So HR, they contact him and say, "Hey, we're going to follow up on this. This wasn't right." They don't. Or maybe they did, and they got overruled by some leader who's a coward. See, coward leaders brush stuff like this under the rug. Courageous leaders deal with this. Well, the random assessment was the next order of business, and he was given a bad assessment. I don't know if he earned that bad assessment or not. Point is, it's not a way to treat people. Next story. This is my favorite. Joe, you'll love this story. Hungarian weather officials fired after inaccurate forecast. 2 top Hungarian officials were fired after a forecast for an important event turned out to be inaccurate. What was the event? It is called St. Stephen's Day. It's a fireworks show honoring the special day, a holiday in the Hungarian capital of Budapest. And this is to celebrate the birth and history of Christianity in Hungary. And the show usually draws over 1 million spectators. Well, leading up to the holiday, the Hungarian National Meteorological Service, boy, that's a mouthful, called for 75 to 80% chance of rain during the fireworks display start time of 9 p.m. Out of safety concerns, this forecast led to the fireworks show being rescheduled. However, and this is the rest of the story, the forecast did not materialize. It didn't rain. They shut down the biggest celebration in the country out of safety concerns. Well, not too long after this debacle, the head of Hungary's National Meteorological Service, Cornelia Radix, and her deputy, Gyula Horvath, were later fired. Now, I found this to be very interesting, and here's why. First of all, how can we ever hold a weather group responsible for the whims of nature? I mean, they're doing their best, right? I don't question that the forecast showed rain. I also don't question they were trying to do the right thing. But to fire them over it, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I'm not happy they got fired, but I think it's fantastic that we are now at a place where you're going to get fired for one wrong forecast. But I think a lot of Hungarians were mad. But can I also say this, Alex? This is an example of fearful leadership. Do you remember 10 years ago, Joe, when we would talk about hurricanes? It was like, yeah, there's a hurricane coming off the coast, probably good. Now we get CNN reporters standing out in the middle of what is nothing more than a puff of wind, acting like they need to brace against a concrete wall.
It's
There's
true.
a kid on a skateboard right behind him. Fear freaks people out.
Did you know that just like a product, you have a personal brand? It's the image or impression others form about you based on your interactions. And whether we realize it or not, our personal brand impacts opportunities to grow in our careers. That's why our team created the Personal Brand Survey. It's free, and it will give you personal and professional feedback so you can own your strengths and uncover any blind spots holding you back. To get started, go to kencoleman.com/brand.
Welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. I had to go below the desk to get my moleskin in case anybody's wondering what's happening. I'll be right back with you. By the way, people want to know if the pencil thing is real. How about that? This is a new sound effect for the YouTube crazy. The pencil holder. Oh, that's kind of fun. All right, I got to put this thing back here. Hold on. This is kind of fun. I feel like David Letterman. You know, what's below the desk there? I have to bring up a shoebox full of treats or something. All right, let's get to our coaching segment. Will is joining us in Edmond, Oklahoma. Will, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hey, Mr. Coleman, thanks for having me.
You bet. How can I help?
So I guess you guys were taking questions. When I'm new to your show, I guess I'll try and paraphrase this the best I can without seeming too vague or broad of a statement. Personally, I believe a lot of this anti-work, a lot of unmotivated workers, people just dropping out. I feel like that's more of a cultural and societal issue. I guess we could just focus on the United States right now.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, we're talking about from an economic standpoint, if you're running a business or whatever level you're on and you're trying to motivate workers, how would do you think that there's something else that we need to lean towards in terms of motivation or giving somebody a reason to want to work besides, having a new car, or having a lower car payment?
Yes.
And so how does somebody, how would an organization, barring, because I'm a religious person, but obviously, that would be a different discussion. But
not really.
If we're
not really.
Fair enough. I don't know. I'm not familiar with your show, and I don't want to turn this into my own thing. Basically, but if we're just trying to analyze it, how an economist would in that sort of science, how would an organization motivate people in that sort of sense, without trying to turn them into like lab rats or anything?
Yeah, so it's a really good question, and the answer is you've got to understand one thing: you cannot motivate people. Not true motivation.
Yeah.
There is a form of motivation called extrinsic motivation, and that's pretty much where most leaders operate from. And what extrinsic motivation is that you do this or I fire you, or you do this and you get paid. Okay.
Yep.
So the motivation is extrinsic only, meaning outside forces are applying pressure in those two ways. True motivation cannot be manipulated. You cannot do it. You cannot motivate a follower. You can inspire somebody. That's different. But even in inspiration, you are getting to the heart of what I'm going to lay out for you, which is you must be able to see or help reveal in a person what actually motivates them, what inside of them, and it's all heart related. And I have a 3-part construct that will allow leaders to get people in a place where they will be on fire, in other words, motivated. And it's simply this: when you spend most of your day using what you do best, that's your talent, which you hone into skills, doing work that you really enjoy, that's passion, and producing results that matter deeply to you, that's mission, like missional values. So you're accomplishing your personal mission by seeing your values come to life in the results of your work. You understand that 3-part construct? So
Sure.
when I use what I do best, talent, to do work I love, passion, to produce results that matter to me, mission, I am going to get the juice, I call it on the show. I got the juice. In other words, I'm motivated to show up. Has nothing to do with what the leader says or does, other than the leader helping the employee see their unique combination, their unique purpose. And when you do that and then you help get them in the right seat on the bus where they can do that, you're going to have a absolute bus full of fired up people. But you must understand that first part. And that's meeting one of the 3 essential needs that we all humans have at work. Okay, Gallup did the largest study on this, and I dove into it and became an expert on their study. Okay, what I just described is the construct for finding purpose for a person and getting them there. Secondly, you got to recognize them for their unique contribution. Attaboys and attagirls all the time. Third, they want a relationship with you, the leader, a coach, a mentor relationship, because they want a better life, not a better job. Figure that out, you won't worry about motivation.
So you just landed the new job. Congratulations. You've made it past the interviews, and now it's time to onboard with excellence. That's why I created How to Stand Out at Your New Job. This free checklist will help you succeed from day one and may even help you get promoted. These practical steps set you up to add value, help your team win, exceed your leader's expectations, and ultimately set you up for a successful transition. To get started, just go to kencoleman.com/new.
All right, folks, every day on this show, we have a few precious moments where I get to coach you up, just like we did on our last caller. And but I know that that's not as deep as many of you need. Everybody needs a coach. That's why I created the Ramsey Career Coaching. These are professional coaches that personally I vetted. And they'll meet with you on an ongoing basis, and they will return on the investment. If you do what they ask you to do, and you let them guide you, you're going to win big. Check it out. You can get your own career coach, the one that's right for you. We have a stable for you to choose from. We're going to match you up with the right one. Go to kencoleman.com/coaching, kencoleman.com/coaching. All right. So earlier in the program, I read a comment from Philip, who's watching live on YouTube, who's called the show years ago, he said. And he's currently in a union, and I want to give you all, this is going to be fun. I'm going to interview Philip, and I'm going to give you all perspective on unions because there's a growing movement. This is not a new idea, and I just want to hear from somebody who's in it, the good, the bad, the ugly. Philip joins us in Bay City, Michigan. Philip, welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Ken.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well.
Man, this is awesome. Thank you for doing this. So I want to go to school on behalf of the audience, okay? So describe your current job in the union.
I currently work as a parts maker, a production person. I build parts for one of the big 3.
Got it.
And it's a steering part.
Okay, and so you're in a union of one of the big 3 automobile makers, and you're in parts. And you said in your
well, we're actually an independent parts supplier to
one of the big 3. Got it. Okay, yes. So but you still are in a union. You work for a separate company. Okay, all right. Mm-hmm. And you said in the chat room that you're looking to move into an apprenticeship. Where are you looking to move to do what?
Currently at the same location, just it will be an electrician at the current employer.
Okay, so how long have you been a member of a union?
11 years.
11 years. And describe the positives in your mind of being in this union.
Well, 3 years ago, they allowed me to become a ordained chaplain inside of that, and I much enjoy that piece of the job when I can. It's a volunteer position. I don't get paid for it. But,
so what are give me some of the other positives? You've been in this now over a decade. I want people to hear what it's really like to be a part of a union. Give me a few more positives. If there are, you may not have any.
There definitely there can be some solidarity in it, but
explain that because I got a lot of young people watching this, and they read stories about Starbucks deciding to unionize, and they go nuts. They love it. They're clicking on these things. It's like I'm giving them candy out there on YouTube. And I want them to understand there can be solidarity. So what is the most positive possibility that a union would bring as it relates to solidarity? And that's a fancy word for community and unity. Give me that example of what it could be.
Well, when you can bond together and be able to get things done as a large organization, and
like what? Get what things done?
Like community events and stuff like that to help back. We are currently surrounded by an area that's very poor and around the shop.
Okay, so it's a natural community. All right, so giving back, that's one thing. But I'm not hearing any real professional positives yet. Why is that, and why are you giggling?
Because it's in a very toxic environment.
What makes it toxic?
Between union and management, there's a very butt heads kind of deal, and it sometimes prevents things from going forward.
Right, because you've got union leaders who are a part of the working ranks, who are supposed to represent you and everybody else, and then you've got management, the people leading the company. And so it is a constant game of chess that gets nasty sometimes. Is this a true description?
That's very true.
And why? Well, wait a second, Philip. Wait a second. You're telling me that once you unionize, you got all the employees gathered together against the man, the executives, that power doesn't get you everything you want when you want it?
No, sir.
How? Why? Wait. Why? How? How does that happen? How can the leaders and executives not give you what you demand?
Because of sometimes there's greed involved. There's other things that is involved that prevents people from working together instead of against each other.
Right. And how political, and I don't mean like outside Dem, Republican, conservative, liberal. I mean, how political has the union become as it relates to the real power players who are leading the union versus you, the rank and file people?
Very much so.
So it introduces, let me ask you this. Oh boy, I almost did a leading question. I don't want to do that, Philip. So I objected to myself. I object, Your Honor. Leading question before he even said it. All right, sustained. All right. So are there more inner office politics now than there were before union work? I'm just curious your view on that. More politics or less for the everyday worker?
As far as before I took a union job or
what I mean is have you worked in a non-union environment?
Yeah.
I'm asking, are there more politics in a union environment or less?
More.
That's what I thought. That's what I've been saying. Okay. See, Philip, you're doing me a service because I've been out here. Because here's what I want people to hear. That it sounds really great and romantic, doesn't it? Until you actually live it. And it ends up being a fight. And it's not a guarantee that you're going to get what you want.
Very much.
All right. So how good is a strike? How effective? You ever been a part of a strike?
Yes.
Were you forced?
Not at all.
Were you? Okay. Okay, great. 2 questions. This is great. I'm in the speed round. Were you forced to strike or was it your option?
Essentially forced to strike.
You were forced to strike. All right. And then why was it not good?
Because negotiations didn't go further. It really did nothing. It only lasted about a day, and there was no benefit to doing it, really.
All right. There it is. Philip, what else do you have to say? I'll give you the final comment. Do you have anything else to say to these young people that are thinking that unions is the way to get the hand on poor leadership?
I think it definitely has to do with your union and the strength of your members, and in how well things can work together.
Would you say it drives up costs for the company?
Yes.
And would you say it is a better experience for the user, the end user, the customer?
Not necessarily.
Yeah. All right. There it is. Philip, I'll let you go. You're a great man. Thank you for calling in. All right. So here's the deal. That was enlightening. Here's why unions aren't what you think they are. The minute you all come together, you create an oppositional relationship with your leaders. And there's no reason for there to be opposition. If you don't like the culture, leave. But the minute unions come into play, politics amplifies because it's now us versus them, and it's jockeying back and forth. And can I ask you, young people, or any age, that you think unions are good for the American worker? How many of you really like listening to Congress and reading about Congress and that insidious, dysfunctional cesspool up there? You don't like it. And that's what unions do. It's all about politics and power, not purpose. This is the Ken Coleman Show.
Thanks for listening to the Ken Coleman Show. For more, you can find the show on demand wherever you listen to podcasts and watch the show on YouTube. You can also find Ken across all social media by following @Ken Coleman.